If you struggle with your one-handed backhand, one big reason that so many players struggle to produce power, acceleration, and just a solid feeling of a reliable one-handed backhand is because generally they're either not using their body enough, hence you have the one-handed backhands that look like this, or you have the person who understands they're supposed to use their body, but guess what they're doing? They're over-rotating, causing balls to shank and fly everywhere, and this just drives you nuts. If you've ever been out there on the court, you know exactly what I mean. I remember earlier my transformation from a two-hander to a one-handed, this was one of the biggest issues I had because I came from the school of two hands, which meant I'm gonna rotate a lot more into the shot to the school of one hand, where now the rotation is not as much. It's kind of tricky. How much do you need? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to figure that out. Using a drill I saw on Instagram, hopefully I can find it. I'll post it somewhere, so if you want to see the original drill. But I thought it would be a great drill to show you because I think it really helps you define how much rotation do you need to hit the ball where you want and get the acceleration you want, because it's so important. If you can't create acceleration on the one-handed backhand, you're kind of just at the whims of your opponent, especially if they have an aggressive ball. Yes, you can get the ball back and kind of poke it and shove it here and scoot it there, but you don't want to do that. You want to be able to, if you want to hit it, hit it. And just because I say acceleration is like the buzzword, acceleration. Acceleration doesn't mean I have to crush the ball. Acceleration could be adding more upward swing, more path, and having more safety on the ball to be more consistent. Having the ability to create acceleration in your ground strokes, whether it be your backhand or your forehand, allows you to do whatever you want. You're at kind of the mercy of not having acceleration if you don't know how to create it. And that's where I don't want you to be if you have a one-handed backhand. So let's get started. The very first thing I want to talk about is what's supposed to happen. So if you're on the camp of, I didn't even know you're supposed to rotate, I just hit my one-handed backhand like this, what's supposed to happen? What we really want to do is send ground force up to our hand. So what this means is we're going to send the force from the ground to the hand. And yes, you could do it this way, but an added benefit is using the rest of our body called the kinetic chain, meaning that I'm going to load my weight into my back leg here, just like this, but as I'm loading, I'm also turning and twisting. I'm creating separation. I'm like a spring. So rather than just loading and doing this, which you could push some force into the ball, and this kind of looks very similar to almost like a little bit of a return. There's still rotation. But what we really want to do to optimize it the most is as we load, we coil. And this coil is creating separation between my shoulders facing this way and my hips facing this way. What that does now is I can unload or uncoil by pushing against the ground, which is going to push against my hips, which is going to drive my torso and shoulder and arm forward, which now accelerates the racket through the ball. This is what you basically have to do for any ground stroke. But the difference on a one-handed backhand is the degree or the amount. If you see a two-hander, you'll see this situation like when you see Nadal. He coils and pushes and has a pretty big rotation. But if I do that exact same rotation with a one-handed backhand, you can see how open I am. Compared to a one-handed backhand, we don't need as much. We need a little bit, like a spark plug. You just need a little bit to ignite the whole swing, meaning that I don't need this, which is the mistake a lot of players are making. I just need this, okay? And it's a tricky feeling if you're not used to it. And this drill I'm gonna show you is gonna train your body to make sure you get the right amount of rotation when you're hitting your one-handed backhand. So what do I need to do? How do I need to do this drill? Basically, you don't need this anymore. Well, you need it, but we'll get it in a second. You need to get some balls, and you can do this up against a fence. I'm gonna do it against the net strap so you can see where I'm targeting. But I recommend not getting too far. I might be a little bit too far back for this, but I think it'll still work. If you want to kind of be, I would say, on the service line to the net or maybe a little bit closer. So I'm gonna get some balls and I'll show you exactly how to do this. Okay, got a couple balls. So here's the thing I want you to think of. Now, I watched the video on throwing a Frisbee because I was like, this looks exactly like throwing a Frisbee. But they say throwing a Frisbee has to do, you do a couple other things that I wouldn't recommend for a tennis stroke. But I'm gonna still pretend like it's throwing a Frisbee, because if I thought about throwing a Frisbee, my action would be here, okay? Because I want my body to line up with my target. So I'm gonna use the camera as my target for a second. So if I was throwing, I wanna go here. Now, what they said, when you're throwing a Frisbee, you step across and then you do this. I don't recommend that because we're locking out the hips. But because we're trying to really accelerate the rest of our body, what we wanna do is that coil that I was talking about and loading, and then have the hand go out. Now, in the process of this load and having the hand go out, my hips are moving. You can see it here. Watch my back knee. As I'm doing this and loading, and if I was throwing a Frisbee just with my arm and not doing the leg part, this is the action would be. Now, why is this important, and why do you think, Kevin, this drill is going to help me? Well, if I'm trying to throw, let's say, the Frisbee towards you right now, here, I would do this. I wouldn't do this, because where's the Frisbee gonna go? Well, no one knows. It might go that way, or that way, whatever. But, and I know if you're saying, well, Kevin, doesn't the racket face determine where the ball's gonna go? Yes, it does. But we wanna make sure we're sending our energy through our body. And the racket face is gonna determine it. So I don't wanna get you confused on that. We wanna make sure when I'm doing this, boom, if I'm releasing the ball, I'm releasing it so it goes out that way. Now, if I over-rotate and release it this way, you feel a lack of power, and I want you to try this. So I'm gonna use the back camera now so you can see this, me looking this way, but I'm gonna talk to you here. So when I'm throwing this, if I were to open up too much, you're gonna feel a loss of power when I'm trying to aim straight. So if I go like that, it feels so weird. You gotta try this at home. If I extremely try to open up fast, but I over-rotate, I feel this huge loss of power, and it's really hard to send or even time the release of this ball to go straight. Compared to if I go this, I feel much more power, and I'm not trying to get over that. I'm trying to really accelerate with force. I feel a lot more control over that. This is the drill. I want you to take a couple balls, you can hold a couple in your pocket, and really simply start off slow, where we're still gonna have this load in the back leg, and we're gonna release the ball. So I'm gonna go release, okay? Release. I don't care if it goes in the net, release. Notice that I'm not doing this, okay? Look at my shoulder difference. And then calmly start speeding it up. I know that sounds weird, calmly speed up, but yes, calmly speed up. We don't wanna go crazy because we wanna have where my back knee is turning to help me release. If you notice, release, okay? Release. But if I start overthrowing, you're gonna feel that loss of sensation of almost like thrust from using my body. This is the same way we wanna think when we're hitting the one-handed backhand. From here, I want you to pick up your racket now. And so we wanna just do a couple shadows, getting that feeling of release. And I feel that same sensation when I hit my one-handed backhand compared to players going like this and opening up too much. So now you can have balls in your left hand and hold the racket. And I just want you to softly hit the ball, okay? And release. Ooh, got the ball machine. But notice how I'm releasing here. I'm not over rotating. And the way I described in other videos is that you're turning your hips towards the contact. So my contact's here, and as I'm rotating, I'm turning it towards the contact and stopping. This is what I like to consider a better drill, because generally someone's either played Frisbee or thrown something, and so I like using things that you might have already done to teach you something. There's no point in like rewriting the book when, if you're used to throwing a Frisbee like that and it makes sense to you, that it feels natural, because it's almost the same, barring the feet part of it. But now we're gonna go from here, release, okay? Feel the difference, release. It feels so much better because I'm aligning my rotation, my push into the ball. So now we're gonna use the ball machine. And with the ball machine, I don't want you trying to swing super hard. See how I'm timing, release. Ball went a little long there, so all I gotta go. And here's the tricky part. I said the ball went low, that got away from me. Ball went long there, but we really wanna focus on the timing of the release here. That I'm not over rotating like this, or not rotating at all like this, that's just arm, that we have the right amount going here. From here, after you get comfortable with this, then you start toying around with the racket face. If the ball goes too long, close the racket face. If the ball goes too short, open it. So here I'm coming up, that went long. I'm gonna come up and close it a little bit more, that created more spin. Up a little bit more, that created a lot of spin that's short. So you can see the adjustment I'm making while keeping this rotation in check. But you can see how I can accelerate and do it faster, but it's the timing, it's not strength. I think so many people are like, to have a great one-handed backhand, I gotta be strong. In some sense, if you hit the ball back here, yes, you do have to be strong. But if you start working on the timing of using your body, loading, this is going to allow your racket to accelerate and overcome a ball that has a lot of pace on it. But here's the thing, this is just one part of the one-handed backhand. I wanna make sure you have a solid understanding of every part. So if you do need to understand how to hit the rest of your one-handed backhand, make sure you watch this video, because it's gonna take you through step by step all those other things about how to use your feet, how to make sure the racket face, the grip, and all those things that are important and essential to hitting a great one-handed backhand. So take care.